We're just okay, and we played some
Movies.
games. We're just okay.
Movie
gamers.
watchers.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Okay Movies. I'm your host, walking naked, gonna kill you because you had sex, ghost thing, Biggie Size, and I'm here with...
Oh, first I'm a big boy, then I'm a little boy, Gweedo.
Hey, good one, Gweedo. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. Hey, have you watched anything interesting lately?
Oh boy. Yeah. Some television. I watched a series called The Sinner. You seen this? You heard about this?
I have not heard about it. What is it?
It's a series, a short series with Jessica Biel and Bill Pullman. And basically, Jessica Biel commits a heinous murder in front of everybody in broad daylight. And then the series is about her figuring out why she did that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was okay. Nothing super special. Like lots of tropes and lots of like twist endings to the episodes, which were like, you could tell that they made it for broadcast television and not for a binge show, because it leaves on those weird cliffhangers, and they threw them in and kind of watching it in a few sittings or over the course of a week, you really notice that the plan was just to get people to come back the next week, because it was like aha moments, like, we gotcha, it wasn't what you were thinking, fuck you, you know.
Yeah.
So that kind of pisses you off when you watch it in a quick succession, but it was okay. I can't suggest it, but it was good enough to keep my interest that I watched the whole thing.
Interesting. Was that a fairly new show?
They're in a second season now, I believe. So
Okay. So within like a year or so.
yeah.
Wow.
It's on Netflix.
Interesting. What's the original channel? Like, I haven't heard a thing about this show.
What's the channel?
Yeah, the channel or is it a Netflix original?
Oh no, it's USA, I think.
Okay.
My buddy at work told me to give it a shot. He knows I like that kind of true crime shit.
Nice.
So, but yeah, it was okay. Like, the murder was fucking crazy to watch.
Really?
Yeah,
now,
she's this married woman, and she's got a kid, like a toddler, and they go to the beach, and she's at the beach just enjoying the day. You can tell she's kind of like depressed or something, or just sullen, and she's sitting on a towel with her husband there and her baby, and she's cutting off pieces of a pear. And in front of her, there's a group of late 20-year-olds hanging out, just listening to music, kind of fucking playing grab ass with each other. And she's cutting the pear, and then she just says, I'm not going to let you touch him anymore. And she takes the knife that she had and stabs him in the neck and then in the chest like 7 times.
Whoa.
On a beach, like in broad daylight in front of everyone. And like,
Holy shit.
yeah, there's no, like, she doesn't know why she did it. Like a blackout moment for her. And her husband's like, what the fuck? Well, everybody's like that, but yeah. So that was what hooked me. It's like a pretty interesting premise. Like, she just like doesn't know. She's like, I killed them. Like, I got to go to prison now. I get it. Like, I'm not fighting this. I don't know why I did it, but I did it.
Wow.
And interesting premise, right? But then
Dude,
it's just kind of,
that's good shit.
it goes down this kind of weird rabbit hole, and there's side characters like Bill Pullman's the detective, and like they explore his home life, and it's totally unneeded. It's just kind of weird. The rabbit hole it goes down.
Yeah, it kind of blew its load a little too early. Like I could see them making a whole series out of it if it just saw like chunks of what happened, but you didn't know exactly what happened. It's just kind of revealed. You're like, oh, there's this same lady in jail. Why is she there? It doesn't make sense. Maybe like over a season, you're kind of like, okay, you see this little snippet of what happened, and you're just kind of putting it together. And then at the very end, it blows its load that she just totally murdered this guy. Like I just like kind of what you're saying. Like I wouldn't really care too much about what Bill Pullman does. Like you kind of just unveiled the meat of the story like at the very beginning.
Yeah, but it was effective in getting me to stay and watch it.
Oh, definitely. I could see
So
that
can't
being a
fault them
really
there.
good like totally. I could definitely see them making like a good like one shot like short TV movie kind of thing, or just do it in pieces like Band of Brothers style. That's shocking though that they're able to drag it out into 2 seasons. Like it just doesn't sound like there's a lot of material.
The second season is a totally different case. It's about I guess it's about a kid who like kills his family, and they're trying to figure out why he did it.
Okay, so this is like True Detective, American Horror Story
like
kind of thing.
What's the word for it? Anthology?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, now that's cool. I like that. Well, I'm gonna definitely have to check that out then. Jessica Biel just murdering some guy on the beach. I kind of like that. I haven't really watched much. Megan and I watched a movie called Beirut. I believe that's what it's called. It has what's his face? John Hamm and some other people in it that look kind of recognizable, but I don't know their names.
Oh, I remember seeing the trailers for that. I never watched it though.
You're not missing much. It's okay. It's a Netflix kind of film or HBO where I would have been probably more disappointed seeing it in theaters, and I think it was in theaters for maybe a week. I don't know if it really did that well, but it's a smaller film compared to most. But the story is not bad. Basically, John Hamm and his buddy, they kind of work for the CIA in like a capacity, but they're not. Well, at least John Hamm's not like a full agent. He does deals. So like if 2 groups are having an argument, he what did you call it? He kind of guides the deal. He's the middleman who's impartial. Mediator. Thank you so much. I could not pull that out of my head. And so that's kind of his job. But his wife dies, and their adopted son gets taken, and he just kind of loses it, and he goes back to the United States and is kind of in a slump, and then the CIA needs to pull him back in because his partner got abducted, and he knows a lot of classified information, and the person who abducted him only wants John Hamm to come and be the mediator. They won't allow anyone else. And through that, you kind of see him. He's drinking. He's just a mess, and he kind of gets his act together and does some real clever stuff to try to one up everyone. Because even you find out later, the CIA is a little crooked in this ordeal. But I won't go into it too much. I know, shocker, right? But if that sounds mildly interesting, then watch it. You won't have a bad time. And John Hamm does a pretty good job. He's John Hamm. You don't expect anything too crazy, but in that role, he does a good job. And there's some real interesting things he kind of pulls that you kind of don't expect. So, out of 5, I give it like a 3, 2.5. Worth watching. A good Netflix watch. But that's been about it. But I would say the film that we watched, our first film of our Halloween October films, the first one of 4, It Follows, was a more interesting film, but ultimately I'd say a little disappointing around the later half. And I guess we'll probably get into that. Guido, would you give us just a small synopsis of the film It Follows?
Sure thing. There is a girl. Her name is Jay, and she is dating a young man, and she eventually has intercourse with said young man. You're kind of led to believe it's her first time. She's a virgin. But maybe not. I don't know. That's unclear. Anyways, the guy she has sex with is a very nice young man up until the point where directly after coitus, he dips a rag in some ether or whatever it is and drugs her, knocks her out, ties her to a wheelchair, and explains that there is an entity that is following her, and it will follow her, and it will kill her, and if it kills her, then it will go after him. And he passed it on by having sex with her. So now it's up to her to either avoid it or to pass it on to someone else.
Very well done. That is the entire synopsis of the whole film. Like, you, just by that sentence, you've kind of seen the whole film. I mean, other than that, it's her having encounters with the, what would you call it? It's not really a ghost because it has to go around obstacles like doors and things like that. What would you call it, Guido?
Yeah, I just call it an entity. I don't know. It's not a demon. It's not a ghost. It's not, I don't know.
That's probably the best way of calling it. It's interesting because the only people that can see it are the people who have been infected. So whether if you're the newly infected that the entity is trying to kill or any of the ones prior, you are the only ones that can see it. And I mean, that's a cool concept. The whole concept is really, really neat and interesting. It's clear cut, easy to understand, and you could somewhat, relate to in a way. We've all, at some point, have probably had sex, and it's like, oh boy, that'd be terrible if the last person I had sex with, I'm now infected with this thing that slowly walks towards me for the rest of my life until either I die from something else or it kills me. That's just creepy. It's great. And it's such a nice, simple premise, especially, and I guess I'll go ahead and share this. This film was filmed for only $2 million, and in some parts of it, I'm pretty impressed with how well it was done. I had looked up while we were watching the film because some of the camera work was interesting but very simplistic in that they would keep the camera basically in one fixed spot and just pan it around. Whether if someone was like walking in the frame where you might have, another camera maybe following them or at a different angle while they're having a conversation. Mostly the camera just stays still. And, but it's noticeable, but very, I would say, done very classy. And I looked it up. Apparently it was just shot with one camera and all digital, and you can kind of tell. And good job.
The shots are all, for the most part, framed very nicely.
Yes.
Like the framing in this movie is great. You get the big picture, even like subtle things of just a shot of a car in an abandoned parking lot. It's a beautiful shot. Or a girl in a swimming pool. Very well shot. So, it's a good movie to look at, definitely. But there's some technical shots that we'll eventually get into, but one of them is my favorite. And I think because of the way in which we watched it, Biggie, I think you missed out, man, on this movie.
Oh no. Yeah, during our viewing, we watched it on a Rabbit on Discord. We all got together and watched it. And hey, if you're not a part of Discord and you want to be a part of some of these viewings, please get on discord.gg/justokgamers. Join in. It's a blast. Everyone getting together and talking about the film. But we did have some technical problems. It looks like the viewing was, I don't know if some frames were like cut in half or it was just stuttering quite a bit.
Right.
So it may have harmed my experience a little bit, maybe taint my review a tad.
It's also in the sense that this movie for me, it does a great job of building tension and never knowing where it is. And when you're in a room with a bunch of people and we're all just kind of cracking jokes, that tension is gone. Like
yes,
people relieve that tension by cracking jokes and talking and making fun. But like I hate to say someone watched something wrong.
Oh, you watched that wrong.
Right.
That's fair, though. I agree.
But yeah,
No.
there's a lot of little nuance in it, especially if you're invested into it early on. And I just think it's a movie better to watch quietly with maybe another person.
Yes. Yes. And I had a feeling going into this I wouldn't get the full experience, and maybe I would not view it as favorably, because it definitely builds itself as being a kind of suspense, at the edge of your seat, because you've got this thing, with every scene going on, that it's lurking somewhere. And that's always so creepy. And I love films like that, like Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, all those we've talked about in the past, where it's coming. It's just, when is it going to show up? And I think for the first half, the film does a great job of capturing that. And maybe I wasn't quite as tense as I thought I would be, but still I felt engaged, because in my mind I kept on thinking, okay, what's the way she can get out of this other than her dying? What are the rules of the entity? Does it teleport around? Does it take control of other people? What can you lock it in a box? Anything like that. And that's kind of fun, is trying to figure out, if I'm in this position, what am I going to do to get out of it? Because I will say, much like Mandy, the character I can't say I liked or I was in any way rooting for, but it was more of it would suck if I was in that same position. What would I do if I were her? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what made the film fun. And I do kind of agree with you, Guido. I think if I had watched it alone, like I did with Mandy, I probably would have been a bit more invested or a bit more engaged. But I would say the first half of the film is very enjoyable. And I guess we can dip into it, or wherever we want to go with this review. It's the second half is where I had a big problem. The film started, to me, it felt like it started slowing down quite a bit, where there were a lot of scenes where it was a lot of establishing shots of like what all the teenagers were doing at the time, and the scenery around them. And that's okay if you do it some of the time, but it just felt like it was happening all the time. Like I'm trying to think of any in particular, like when they were at the beach, and of course it does show up once they're at the beach, but still a lot of time passes while they're just standing around not doing anything. When they're at the pool, a couple of other scenes, like when they're at their house, like just a lot of just time where it was just standing still. And if they kind of cut some of those scenes in half, they really get to the point that, here it is, here's what's happening, the monster's here, or whatever it is. I think it would have helped it flow a bit more, but it just kind of felt like the balloon had already been blown up and it was starting to slowly, blow out of air, and you're just losing that momentum. And,
see, that's why I like this movie, though. I
really?
like those long shots. Yeah, because when you're watching it, you there's this feeling of like it's coming. Like, what are you, like, it's coming. It makes you tense. And there's one of these shots, it happens throughout the movie, and I'm positive you guys missed them all. But the best example is, and it's my favorite shot of the movie, is they're just going, there's a point where she doesn't know what the name of the guy that gave her this thing, right?
Yes.
And she's going to his old high school to go to the administration and look at old yearbooks to see if she can find a picture and pick out his name. And they go into the school, and it's a single shot on a tripod, and they do a 360 rotate. They follow the main characters as they go into the office, and then they rotate, and they're rotating past all these students. And while you're watching it, you're like, holy shit, it could be anyone, like the entity could be any one of those people. And it's rotating a 360 very slowly, and it feels like a long scene, but then it rotates just past this lady that's walking straight towards the office, and she's wearing white, and she's out of focus in the background, and it doesn't stop on her. It just keeps going, but she's the one that's out of place. And I'm positive that people missed that. but there's a lot of those scenes where you can see it in those long exposition shots of just like setting the scene. And it's wonderful. It's so good because, and you're like, they don't know it's so close. and they finally, when they get, it's a great exposition scene because they don't go onto a computer in the library and look up people that have died under mysterious circumstances, the typical horror trope, or they don't go find a magical medicine man. It's a shot that doesn't have any dialogue. They walk into an office, they find the yearbook. It's a shot through like 3 doors, so you're looking at them from a cockeyed view, and they're paging through the yearbook. They find who they want. They got his name, and then they leave the school, go back to the car, and they're telling their friends what they find, and it's focused on the people in the car. Jay and I think his name was Greg were in the front seat, and they're explaining what they found, and very blurry because it's not in the field of view. In the distance, you see that same girl during that 360 walking slowly. It's very far in the distance, but you see it walking slowly. And then they take out of the parking lot as they're having this conversation, goes back and forth. You see her coming slowly, and they go out of the parking lot, and right before he turns left out of the parking lot, it rack focuses onto that girl that's following him, to be like, you see how close they came? It's like the director, like, oh, look at how close they came. And
yeah. Yeah, I didn't notice that at all.
It's a shame because there's a lot of that in this movie. Like, it builds such great tension in that, as the audience, they're like, it's coming. Come on, guys. Come on, it's coming. You need to like be looking over your shoulder. You need to be on edge. You need to drive away. And I just love that feeling that it gives you.
Yeah. Man. I really, really want to love this movie more because Guido's the one who told me about the plot of this film, and I was so excited. And not that I was expecting, everything to be there. I knew that the film was a smaller budget and a small team who made it and everything. And I was excited to watch it and maybe blame it on the environment. That could potentially be it. But part of me never felt like the entity was a major threat, or they made him more threatening than it really was. And I guess maybe that killed me a little bit. And still, that's the whole, I'm in this situation. I personally don't really care about these people that much, but the situation is creepy, and I am having fun putting myself in their shoes. And, like, okay, first of all, we'll go ahead and lay down the rules of the entity, or at least the ones that we understand. First of all, you get infected by having sex, and we're assuming it's full-on intercourse with the person who's infected.
Mm-hmm.
And
double cum time.
Wait,
you have to both come at the same time.
Okay, both come at the exact same time. And the entity itself, as far as we know, it doesn't teleport, take other people, whatever. It is a single thing. It can change its appearance, and it looks like it changes its appearance if you lose line of sight with it. So, you walk into a room, it looks like a naked chick. You look back out at him. It's still walking at the same pace and everything, but it could be like a little boy or an old-ass man. So it can always change its appearance, or even look like someone you know. Mm-hmm. We know that it can be interacted with, even with people who don't see it. Because we see a scene where one of the boys, he takes a chair and hits him with it, and then it gets knocked on his ass. Mm-hmm. But doesn't kill him. He will not kill, first we know, anyone else but the person it's going after. But it can interact with the environment around them. So all that's cool. All that's good. But every time they see it, they are like running for their lives, even though this thing can just walk. Like, you would think it was like Jason Voorhees or someone like running at him with a machete, or some crazy lunatic running at him with a
Jason
machine
doesn't
gun.
run either.
Oh, okay, that's a bad example. You can tell I haven't seen any of the Friday the 13th films. Anyway, something threatening that they have like a weapon, or something. But this thing could just walk. So as long as you could like walk a little faster than it, you can like just keep an eye on it the whole time and it won't hurt you at all. It's got to be right up there on you. So the fact that they like overreact, in my opinion, after such a long time when they know that that's its limitation, it's not enough for me to feel like, oh God, I'm so scared. Like, no, just walk a little faster than it. In fact, it probably would be better if you don't lose sight of it. Like, to me, I'm like, it doesn't build tension for me just knowing that it's out there when it's so handicapped by how it can get to you. And I guess that kind of took me out of the film a bit. Like, I would have loved it if, at the very beginning, they're freaked out as hell. They don't know anything about it, but they start learning little things they can do to stay alive and kind of plot. And that kind of happens, but it's stupid how they go about it.
It is stupid. It is stupid.
And that's what killed me, was several times. And the beach scene was the time it really happens. So they really try to take this thing down. So they can all interact with it. They get knocked around, but only the chick can see it. Well, she has a gun, and she starts blasting it in the head, in the legs, and it actually gets knocked down to the ground, but they can't kill it. So we're like, okay, we've learned something new. It can be interacted with by anyone, but apparently even with a bullet to the skull, it cannot die. So great. That's a wonderful scene. Moving on. So later they decide, at the very end of the film, that they are going to try to electrocute it in water. Like, that just, and especially the way they go about it is just so dumb.
Look,
and it kills me a little bit.
It is.
And I wish, like, either have one or the other. Like, if you're going to, like, try to kill it, do the water scene first or something. Because then they try to shoot it in the head again. At that same scene, it's like, we've already done all this. Like, why are you being so stupid when you went kind of about it so somewhat smart up until that point? And it's a cool scene. Like, I love the whole, like, what their plan is. They're going to lure it into the water, and they have a bunch of electric items like a hair dryer that's plugged in, a bug zapper that's plugged in. They set them around the pool. Like, okay, this is cool. Probably just one of those will accomplish what you need to do before stuff starts getting tripped, and the rest of them aren't going to matter. It doesn't work out that way because the monster starts knocking that stuff into the water, which is awesome. But at that point, it's like, I expect them to be a little smarter how they go about it, and it just feels so dumb. And
okay,
it's disappointing.
Let me explain something.
Okay. Explain it to me, Guido. Am I being too harsh?
No, I think it is dumb. It is dumb. But I think that's also the intention. Because
Sure.
the whole scope of the movie is they're kids. She's in high school. Like, there's no adults in this film. Like, no authority figures. Even the cop that comes to talk to her after she gets dropped off, you don't even see on screen. So you have to think of it as like, they're kids. They don't know. They try to shoot it, and then they come up with this Scooby-Doo ass fucking plan of like, let's electrocute it in water because it's what we have available. Like, what else are they gonna do? They're not gonna do any incantations because they don't know that shit. They're like, I'm a dumb kid. I'll bring it to the fucking pool, try and electrocute. I don't know. I'm a dumb fucking kid. And I think that was all just, it's supposed to be stupid. They're kids and they don't know how to deal with it. So they're going to try something because it's what's there. Like, what else in their world, what else would they have done?
Yeah. You're totally right about that. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit on their intelligence, and they,
Yeah,
they
and
are
also
just-
like just walking faster than the thing, it like it's good. It's coming to kill you, and it takes on horrifying images of people that are probably dead. Like that lady that's bound and her teeth are missing and she's got a black eye and she's pissing herself. You're telling me you're just going to walk like 3 miles an hour faster than her while it creeps up behind you? You're going to run your fucking ass off, man.
No, I agree at the beginning there because it was all new. Like she wasn't even sure if it was like totally real or just in her head at that point. Like that was great. Like the visuals of that whole scene, because it just keeps progressing. You have this looks like a hooker kind of with like, looks like she got punched in the face and she's pissing herself. That's creepy as hell. And it's at a perfect time too, because she heard the window break, so she's already kind of freaking out. Then she sees that, she's even more scared, runs upstairs. None of her friends in the house have seen it, and then when they open up the door, this creepy ass tall motherfucker walks through.
Oh, that's one of the best scares, and it's not a jump scare, which is great. It's a very gradual, right. Like it startles you.
It is, because oh my lord, that was so well done. And all that, as I said, that's in that first half, so good. It just feels like there's a turning point when they actually try to do something. And still at the beach part, we've already talked about. Like that felt like a good turning point. Like, okay, how do we combat this thing? Okay, shooting it in the face didn't work. We know it can just walk, but they're still like screaming and yelling and freaking the fuck out. Just like they were earlier. Like, I feel like at that point, you should have already been maybe a hair desensitized. Like, okay, shooting it in the face didn't work. Maybe we need to think up something different. And that doesn't, and that ends up being the pool part. But that doesn't happen for a while. Like, we have a lot of scenes with them just kind of hanging out and talking.
I think it happens pretty much after the beach. Like, when it drives away from the beach, gets in a car accident, breaks her arm,
right.
Fucks that Greg dude who passes
right.
it on to him. And then it's like a few days later, she's looking out her window and she sees it going towards Greg's house. And then she actually goes to approach it. And the fear is gone, you know? Or, well, it's still there, but she's going to, her worry for her friend outweighs the fear she feels for the entity. So she actually goes in there and sees it killing her friend. And then she runs.
Yeah. You're right. But still in movie time, like all that happening, it just feels like so much downtime where they were so proactive at that point. They just sat around, didn't do anything until their friend died. To me, it's definitely a more personal thing. Like it felt like there should have been a next step. Like the boyfriend dying part, I don't know. It just felt a little out of place. Like that should have happened before all that, because it just felt like kind of a down moment. Like, okay, we're just sitting around talking about sex and all that stuff, and oh, here goes the guy in the house, and they had a lot of dialogue before that point. It just, I don't know, it felt just a little down to me.
I don't know what you want this movie to be.
I don't know
honestly,
either.
I don't know what you want it to be.
And I said, it's just I wanted to have a little bit more of the pace was just too slow for me. I think it's just my overall taste that the pace was just too slow. The characters were not interesting enough that at that point to keep me invested in the story. I was kind of ready for them just to start dying. And because there's just, at this point, nothing was happening. They weren't trying to come up with a more clever way of killing this thing with what they knew. They kind of just went another step in more of a lateral than a progressive step to say like, okay, well, if we just try to trap it somewhere, let's trap it in a box or in a room. I mean, that would make sense. But no, they do the whole, let's electrocute it when a bullet to the head didn't work. To me, it just didn't, although they're kids and they're stupid, I'm fine with that. To me, it just didn't, I was just kind of ready for them to die at that point. I didn't care about any of them surviving. So when they just weren't dying, I was just even more bummed. Like, I don't care. And then it ends up being her dad, which is who the entity is when he's throwing stuff in the water. The chick's dad who got fucked and is infected. And like, who cares? I don't care. It's her dad. I don't know anything about her dad other than just seeing a couple of really weird looking pictures on the wall.
I don't think that's meant to be like a aha moment. It's more after, because you don't know it's her dad while it's happening. It's just when after the scene's over, they show that picture and you're like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. It was her dad.
But I have no reason to care that it's her dad. Now, if it was like what I would have liked was if there was a stronger bond between her and the nerdy kid, and he dies because they fuck earlier in the film, and it ends up being him, and he like gets close as fuck to killing her, and it's just like seething, I don't know, shitting himself, just whatever, something just creepy as hell, and he fails. Like, that would have been at least a little more interesting than, oh, it's her dad. We just saw a picture, but I don't know, maybe her dad was a good guy. Maybe he was an asshole. I have no idea. Other than I see a picture that's really weirdly photoshopped of them in it, and I guess that's spooky. I don't know. Especially find that out after the fact. Like, that makes that whole scene just like, oh, they're freaking out. It's just some guy. I don't know. It just felt clumsy. Like, it could have been so much better. If that's the route they were going to go, they should have set it up, at the very least, be the boyfriend, well, not the boyfriend, but the weirdo guy who fucked her in the hospital. I mean, that would have been better. But they didn't do that. They did the weirdo dad route that didn't make a lot of sense. But
yeah, I'll agree. The dad thing, I'm arguing to argue, but there's definite problems with the movie, but I think it's good in its own right, because it kind of inadvertently, I'm not saying it's solely, there's other movies that have done it, but it ushered in this new kind of era of horror movies.
Agreed.
Like, without the success of It Follows, we might not have had Get Out. We might not have had Hereditary or The Witch, So
yes,
it's a slower pace, and it's not a teen. Well, it is a teen horror movie, I guess, but it's not in the original type. Like, it's not a Halloween or a Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not like a typical slasher movie. It's not fucking Happy Death Day or the Facebook horror movie.
right.
It's this new kind of horror movie that has this excellent cinematography, wonderfully shot. The score is amazing in It Follows. One of my favorite scores in a movie. Especially hitting that horror vibe. I don't know who did it, but they hit all the notes right, pun intended. And it created this turning point for modern horror movies, and I think people are kind of following its lead.
I agree. And I hate to sound like I am completely shitting on this film, and probably harder than I should, mainly because it's coming from a place of love and caring, because I really like what this film did. And the fact that they did it in such a tiny budget, which mostly is probably because they used no-name people. That's normally where your budget goes, is paying the actors. And still such a tiny budget, and did such a solid, I give it an A+ for effort, is impressive. And I love it, and it does deserve the praise it's received. Not to necessarily say I'm going to go easy on it because it was a small budget, but I can very much appreciate what they were trying to do, especially, as we already talked about, camera work is hard as hell. I mean, just doing small projects with a single or two cameras is super difficult. So trying to shoot a good, slick film going to theaters on just one digital camera, not even like a really good one. I looked it up. It was a Avasi Alexa. I think it's what it is. I don't think it's a super high-end camera. Doesn't look like it, at least. But they were able to get those kinds of visuals with that kind of eye for your cinematographer to be able to get those nice shots with such a limited arsenal of resources is impressive. Even the script, simple. The actors handled it fine. You're not going to win any Oscars, but it was still effective. Everyone felt like teenagers. For the most part, I would say they acted like teenagers. And many of the things that they did, I could see myself doing as well for the most part, other than my criticisms.
Yeah.
Still,
I think,
all that on $2 million is impressive.
I think one of my biggest criticisms of the movie is, while the premise is great, it feels like that they just wrote the antagonist, the entity, as they went. Like, they didn't establish the rules of it as they went along, which leads the audience to wonder, while they're watching the movie, what it can actually do.
Sure.
And I think that was one of the bad points of the movie. It's just like they were kind of making it up as they went, because there's points where it even says, like, it'll walk towards you. All it does is walk towards you, but then a few shots later, it's standing on the top of a roof, not moving at all, just watching.
That's a good point. Yeah, you bring up a good point there.
So I think that if they went into it and really established the rules of the monster first, I don't know how they would do it. It would put the viewer's mind at ease, and they can kind of just get more enveloped into the shenanigans that the kids are getting into. But I think it would lend itself to a sequel. Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
We talked about that after the viewing, how we would feel about a sequel. The film made money, as far as I don't know how much it made, but it definitely blew past its $2 million. So it definitely makes sense that they would try to do a sequel. I don't think I've heard of any happening. I think the film came out in 2014. Who knows? I don't know if I'd have the same feeling. Like, the fun part was learning about the monster. And now that by the end of it, you kind of know what it can do, I don't know if I would get that same interest. I don't know if I can get my interest level back. Now,
you don't think that they could come up with another story that would be better than this one?
And keeping the same premise of the entity walking towards you constantly. Oh, man, not unless they wanted to go a bit more campy. I don't know, keeping the same tone and everything. I'm not sure if I could do it. If they wanted to go a little more silly, like, I don't know. Have it be like the president of the United States has an affair and that last person was infected. That would be fun.
Just for instance, what if it was just someone that's not infected notices what's happening?
Like going more like investigator, like all these deaths are happening, but you can't figure it out. Yes, now that angle, going something like that, I could see that being interesting.
And then, like, it could, whoever the investigator is could find like links between the high school kids. Like, there's a girl on a beach with her leg all fucked up, but 50 miles away, there's an old folks home that had like 3 violent deaths in it. And like prostitutes on the other side of town are fucking having these violent deaths. And he's just interviewing people that are involved with the cases, saying that, well, they were acting real weird, always looking over their shoulder. And, I don't know. They never explained it. This guy was seeing stuff. He was asking me if he sees that person, and the investigator's just slowly uncovering clues. I think that could work. It'd kind of take a different tone.
Oh, yes. What also be kind of cool, adding on to that, was there's a person, the last one who got fucked and got infected. He's just like a sick son of a bitch or something, and learns about it. So anyone he wants to kill, he goes and has sex with them, and then all of a sudden they die. So like they're kind of like that could work. Like she's kind of chasing down this guy, but they keep dying these weird ways, and he's not even there. Like that could be kind of cool.
That's a little symbolic in the movie. Like there's points where you're like, oh, I get it. They're becoming the monster because they're trying to inadvertently or knowingly pass it off to someone who unwittingly doesn't know what's coming after them.
Right. And that's
like
cool.
The boat scene and the prostitutes, which I don't think either of them did. I think they alluded to it, but I think they were too pussy.
Yes, I was wondering about that, like with the boat scene. What happens is she's gotten infected again. I think it was after the guy who fucked her in the hospital dies. Like she runs out to the beach again and sees some frat boys, I guess you could say, in a boat, and she like takes off her clothing. She has like just her underwear and stuff on. She swims out, so you kind of assume at this point she's gonna go fuck them just to get it off of her because she's just scared shitless. But then all of a sudden, the monster's back going towards her. So she kind of, I think they asked something about that. Like, did she go have sex with somebody? And she's kind of coy with the answer. So you don't know. But all of a sudden, the monster's back after her. So
yeah,
you kind of wondered.
Her conscience got the best of her. Like, she couldn't pass it on.
Right. It doesn't tell you completely, but you kind of assume that because, wow, that monster killed him really fast. If that was, if she actually did do it. And that was kind of cool. I like how they did that. It was subtle, but very interesting. Cause you kind of wonder, did that monster just go and just murder those guys or one of the guys and she's already targeted again? Or did she fight it and say, no, this is my cross the bear, so to speak. Yeah. And I'm going to find some way out.
It's easy symbolism for an STD. I think that's what a lot of people gather from this.
Oh,
it's like the dangers of STDs, but I think it's a little more than that. I think it's like a loss of innocence, almost.
Yes.
Like the second that you go, you have sex, you become an adult, and there's always this thing over your shoulder. You're always looking back to days that were good, you know, because it's a big theme in the movie where they're always talking about how great it was when they were children, like the first kiss, finding porn in the thing, you know. And I just think it's just symbolic for, you know, you lost your innocence and now, you know, you're halfway there. Death is coming, you know?
Yeah. I agree. And it could have definitely hit on that a little harder. And I guess they did. But I agree. That is a big theme there. And it's, you know, it's kind of still one of those things. You can easily put yourself into that situation, in that mindset. And, you know, they did a good job. I kind of feel bad. I don't want to be too harsh on this film. Strong criticisms, but I would say they did an excellent job. And especially for their restraints that they had in making this smaller film. It was very, an A+ for cinematography. I think my favorite shot is when she's like laying in the back of his car and she's kind of talking. They already had sex and they're out in the middle of nowhere.
She's talking about
they screwed
when she was younger and imagining this moment.
Oh yeah, like you're right.
It's very symbolic of the whole film and foreshadowing.
That is a good point. I didn't even make that connection. And you see him like creeping up right behind him in the back of his car and puts that cloth right on her face, and whew, it hurts a little bit. You know, yeah. I think that's the one time where it definitely hurt to see that happen. But
and then there was that wheelchair shot, which is also really cool.
Yes, that was a really good scene. What they do is he ties her to a wheelchair and it's basically wanting to show her what's happening now or what's been chasing him, and as he just wheels her around. They've got the camera set to face her, so you kind of see it from like if you were like standing in front of her in the wheelchair. So it's kind of cool. And it's a little disorienting. And they're in like, I guess like an abandoned parking lot or parking structure or something. And it's just really creepy because he's like standing right next to the monster, and it's just like this full naked chick just like slowly stepping towards her. And he's just explaining what's happening here and how he's been dealing with it, and he just can't take it anymore. And that was very, very creepy.
Yeah.
And was nicely shot too for a night scene.
Overall,
But
fun little horror. It's good modern horror, I think.
yes.
A good kicking off point, and it's not jumping in the deep end where you go super fucking metaphysical by watching The Witch or something. Have you seen The Witch?
I have not.
Oh, well, that one's just full of fucking weird. It's beautifully shot again, but it's just full of crazy symbolism, and they speak in Old English, and but it's very good.
Is that the one where they're in the it's like back in like the 18 or 1700s, and it's like a little family, and they're having yes, I've Red Letter Media did a review on that. They ranked it really high. It was a solid film. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Okay.
You have to have patience with it, though. It's another very, very slow burn.
Gotcha. Well, I think I've got that on my list. I might try to sit and watch that. The trailer I saw for it looked very creepy. So maybe it'll be a good one. Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's a solid film. And still, I wish that they had done more with it, especially around the end. But I would not call it a bad film at all. It's a good effort. And for what they had to work with, they did a great job. And I would recommend watching it just for the premise alone. And, just going into it, don't expect, any, I guess what would you say, big production values or anything like that. It's a real simple film, and that's okay.
I think horror movies in general have their own rating because you can't compare horror movies to others.
Yes, I agree.
They're different, and a lot of them are very low budget, and a lot of them aren't very good. But that's part of the reason why you watch them, So when one it goes above that line, it stands out, which is what It Follows does.
Yes, totally agree. They actually put in effort, and I'm not a big fan of like the Paranormal Activity ones. I've seen the first two. The first one was just fun because it was hey, it's a creepy cam video with this weird thing going around their house, and it was just fun, just being something different. But the fact
Found
that
footage horror movies are fucking bullshit, man.
They are. I agree. I
think
don't
they're
care
lazy
for it.
and cheap.
Well, they are. Like, for me, it's like, it's okay doing it like once. Hey, it's something neat. Okay, cool. But to make a whole fucking franchise where it's just basically the same shit over and over, and it is lazy. I mean, even the first one was lazy, but at least you could say it was, different, at least at the time. But, then to see this kind of film come along and have way less of a budget than some of the later paranormal ones have, I believe. But try their hardest to make a really good and interesting story. I'm all for it. I love it. Just give me something to chew on. And that's what this film did. I can't get anything out of seeing a sheet kind of move for a second and be like, what was that? Or like I hear a noise like, whoa, God, what was that? I'm like, oh, fuck, who cares? But yeah, I would take this over that any day.
Well, what do we got for next week?
Next week, we will be jumping into, I think, what is it, the 80s? With a little film that was recently mentioned on the Just Okay Gamers podcast. That is a film called Monster Squad, which looks like so much fun. I'm really looking forward to this one. You know what, Guido? Go ahead and give us a teaser if you don't mind. What exactly is Monster Squad?
Well, this is going to be one of those movies where you're going to want to be with a group of people because it's silly and it's fun, but it's also, I'm looking at it through an 8-year-old's eyes because that's the age I was when it came out, if not younger. But it's a staple of my childhood, and I think Wally's childhood too. And it's like the Goonies, except there's these classic universal monsters like Dracula, Wolfman, Swamp Thing, Mummy, and they come to life, and this monster squad, they call themselves the Monster Squad, has to deal with it. And it has all those 80s tropes of like the fucking the bully that picks on the fat kid, and then the cool kid that rolls up on his bicycle wearing a leather coat, smoking a cigarette, probably 13 years old, who like tells the fucking bully to chill out. And it has the girl that everyone pines over, but she's kind of a tomboy. And kids swearing. I love movies where kids swear because it shows them in their natural environment without parents around. So it's gonna be a fun movie, and there's gonna be a lot to crack wise about with other people while you watch it.
Yeah, if you enjoy watching films you can make fun of with your friends, this is definitely going to be one. Oh, probably because it looks like a great film, but definitely older horror films are.
It
are
also
fun to make
has
fun of.
it's interesting because it has a few different types of movies going on during it. Like the main one is the kids, like almost a coming of age kids movie where they're fighting monsters. But then there's like the parents have their own little movies going on. Like the dad has kind of a buddy cop movie going on, and the mom has kind of like a I'm a mom and I'm sad about stuff thing going on, and it's pretty good.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. So please join us for Monster Squad. Not sure when next week we'll be doing a viewing. I'm sure at some point we will. Make sure still jump on the discord.gg/justokgamers so that way you can get the notification when we have a viewing fired up. So please do that. So, all right, we actually got some correspondence this week. I am so excited to jump into it. You know what? Let's go ahead and fire up that voicemail we got.
All right, voicemail time. Here it is.
Hey, Just Okay Movies. Bellsprout here. Sorry this isn't about the movie, the horror movie. As follows, I wasn't able to get to watch it yet, but my question is, what's your least favorite movie trope? Or character trope, I guess, more specifically. For me, it's probably a tie between the annoying little kid and the really dumb but lovable sidekick character. Alright, thanks. Bye. Oh, yeah, sorry. Have a good pod. Okay, now bye.
Oh, Bellsprout, dude. Thank you so much for the voicemail and such an excellent question. It's such a good question, and sometimes it's hard to think of one off the top of my head. Definitely one I don't like. I don't know if this is the one I hate the most, but I don't really like the ditzy girl trope, especially in like a setting like the Temple of Doom with whatever that actress's name is. It's just so annoying. Like having a chick there just screaming and being
That's
like,
got the ditzy girl and the annoying sidekick.
It does. That's true. That's a twofer. If it wasn't for the creepy ass like body horror and like situations and stuff, I would have hated that film. But that makes up for it. But God, just having some lady being like, "Oh my God, my hair! Oh no, there's a snake on me!" Like, I just fucking shut up. I don't give a shit. Die. And that would probably be my biggest trope, and definitely no one likes an annoying kid, especially one that can't act. That's even worse. That's just like a nail of death for your film.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some more, but I'm sure I'll think of them here in a moment. What about you, Gweedo?
One of the ones I don't like, and just because it's so lazy, is the character that's there just to explain something.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? And it happened in Mandy. It happens in a lot of movies where there's just like a character that shows up for a scene, explains what's going on, and then is not gone. It's like a halfway point refresher character.
Yes.
And I think it's lazy. It's like if your movie has to have that, then you're doing it wrong. You need to get all that those details through other means.
Yes. Totally agree. It is you can tell when it happens, it's like a major band-aid someone puts on their film just hoping that you won't notice it or you'll just be invested and you just won't go on your radar. But it hardly ever works. Because first of all, if you're even slightly interested, it slows the film down so much it makes you kind of feel like the film thinks you're a moron.
Right.
Or
it's patronizing you.
Exactly. Or you just don't give two shits about the film, and this just is just like, hey, you fucker, here's what's going on. You're going to listen. So it doesn't work in either situation. You need to probably do some reshoots and actually explain the story more naturally. I couldn't agree more, Guido. Those are always stick out, no matter what movie it is. Any others?
Man, I'm sure there's a lot.
It's tough, man. Sometimes you just gotta watch a film and be like, I hate that, and because there are just so many tropes. But hey, good question, Ty. Very very good one. Well, we got
the dick.
email.
Oh wait, I got one real quick. The dick boss.
Oh,
You know, all bosses are assholes, and they prevent you from being with your family and having a good time, and they're jerks.
Yes.
I'm coming from a managerial position, and I'm far from that.
Yeah, it can only be done. You have to craft it right to really make it enjoyable, where it makes you mad that they're being put down. I think of like Back to the Future with the principal who gives Marty such a hard time. Like, and you're kind of rooting for Marty because he's just kind of an everyday slub, you know. He's just a kid and he's not that smart or anything, but you kind of like him. And him being put down so hard by his principal, someone we all view as a very authoritative figure, is kind of hurts a little bit. You know, it can work in those certain situations, but goodness gracious, there's so many times where I agree. It's just like, all right, we've got to make someone slightly care. Let's just throw in a shitty boss. And it just doesn't work, and I feel like it doesn't work the most when you just don't even give a shit about your character. Your
hey, at
protagonist.
least my boss isn't as bad as that guy, right, Fran? There's like some old guy's nudging his wife in the movie theater.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ty. That was a really good question. And we got an email from King Dop. Man, Ty and King Dop, they're keeping us supplied with questions. I appreciate that. All right, his message is as follows. Horror movies. One of my favorite over recent years was Oculus. The movie involves a lot of cutting between the past and present. In the same house, there are some amazing shots where they cut from one time to another and you start to lose track of what's a flashback and what's not. The plot is fairly standard haunted object / mirror fare, but I really enjoyed it. I have not seen Oculus, but I think I've heard you mention it, Guido.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Maybe it's been on my list. I've heard good things.
Yeah, I have too. It may have been Wally. I think may have all been chatting about horror films for this month prior to the recording. I want to say he had seen it, and but yeah, I haven't heard anything bad about it. I don't know anything about the plot other than what you just shared, King. But sounds very interesting though. I'll definitely have to check that one out. Thank you for sharing that. Well, guys, it's that time again to end the pod, and I just want to say how much I thank you guys for listening. Greatly appreciate your support, and please remember to, if you got any questions, comments, concerns, want to share your thoughts on a film, a topic, anything movie related, please send us an email to justokmovies@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @justokmovies. Make sure, please, I can't stress it enough, to get on Discord, the Just Okay Gamers Discord, so you can be a part of the community. We always have stuff going on, whether it's movie, game related, or anything in between. So please join up if you haven't already. If you're too nervous to say something, just message me on there. We'll talk. I love talking to people on there. You guys are great.
He does love talking to people.
I enjoy it. I do. We've got a great community, and I love them dearly. But I guess that pretty much wraps things up. Guido, Thank you so much, man. As always, love having you on here.
I love being here.
Oh, thank you, buddy. And we will be coming back at you next week with Monster Squad. All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.